map bans just to see where we're going to play in this matchup. Remember, they tied on border. They had INTZ victorious on Consulate. Will it be a third map now?
It's definitely up in the air. I mean, they can't play repeat maps, and border it is going to be again. So, as you mentioned, Immortals had a tie on this last time against Ninjas in Pajamas, and that was a pretty good match. I imagine they might have changed some things and how they're going to be playing it for this time, though.
Yeah, before we move on, just like to remind you that the two maps, there's always two maps that are grayed out below. Those are maps that have been played the previous week, one by each team, which means they cannot be played. They're auto-banned.
But because we're playing usually 2 matches per region per week, it usually means they can play the same map every week, but only because there's every other play day sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a play day, even though we're in super year.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I imagine you got to be prepared for a good variety each week, really, for them at this point.
Well, it is the spice of life, as they say. Let's see what you guys think about all of this. Of course, all of these, not surprising, I'll be honest with you, but with the current scoreline at BR6, it is a bit intriguing. However, remember that BR6 is played on LAN.
Yeah, I also find it often doesn't reflect how they'll play in Pro League.
100%.
For whatever reasons. It might just be they want to use different strats. It might just be the LAN situation. Their Pro League also used to be on LAN, but it is not at the moment. So it's just BR6 is kind of their way of working the LAN out. But it is nice that everyone's in such a small enough region to do that.
Yeah, most players are in and around Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. So it's very easy to get players around here. The whole area is like 50-ish million people. So it's kind of pretty easy to find people in there. Though there are some players, I believe back in the day as well, there's a couple players for Team Liquid that are on the other side of Brazil. Brazil is a massive country, by the way, if you've never been there. So
yeah,
it's pretty impressive that, everybody has just moved in. Most teams are playing in a team house. They're all within the same region. Why it's all centralized, everybody can also play in BR6.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, which is why we think that BR6 is such an important tournament for us to look for, because it gives us extra information that you don't really get with Pro League on its own, but more often than not ends up being the complete opposite of what happens in Pro League.
And it's been like that pretty much since the beginning. It seems that it plays very differently. But again, that's good. That's just extra variety to see. And of course, as you mentioned, it is in Portuguese, so you're going to have to kind of interpret for yourself, if you don't speak that language, what's going on in it. But
easy.
We're here for you for the English version of at least the Pro League matches. And they certainly have been interesting so far. It's definitely interesting, especially given the current meta that's affecting other regions, which some are colloquially referring to as the QEC meta, in terms of kind of very aggressive, fast play.
I think another way of saying is the core meta.
Yeah, it's definitely been very fast-paced. We're seeing, especially on attacks, are being very swift. Even looking at teams like Evil Geniuses playing very quick, and I bring that up because this region is a region that tends to do that naturally, but it is now more so the meta in other regions. In a season where technically not much shifted the meta outside of mute changes for the most part, it just is kind of how it's evolved at the moment in terms of where everyone wants to be. Just very aggressive play, and a lot of that also will come down to which operators get banned and which map you're on. So it is going to vary, but it's certainly something I expect to see a lot of today. Yeah,
people kind of struggling to find new things in the game. As you mentioned, there was really only the mute change that happened between, Paris Major until now. So it's very understandable with the operators for when Bastion being quarantined, means we won't have them in play until post-6 Invitational. So... And that is 100% confirmed, by the way. We will already tell you. We've said it before. We'll say it again. Nomad and Qaid will not be played until post-invitational in professional play, minimum.
That's a lot of time to get warmed up to those new ops. So I expect right out of the gate when they are allowed, they will be played very interestingly, as opposed to situations where, they kind of have to come in fresh, takes a few weeks to warm up to it. But at the same time, then they kind of have to plan for those extra potential bans. So it makes prepping even more complicated in terms of operator bans, because now you have 2 new ones to worry about. So that'll be interesting to see what happens when that comes about.
And we don't know when Lion returns. We'll see how that's working out. I actually have absolutely no clue.
I'm interested to see, because it was definitely a situation where they tried to make adjustments to Lion, see if they could get him in the right place.
Who would have thought an operator that has charges literally does, and then
But I mean, so let's contrast it to Blackbeard as an example of where he kind of went through multiple iterations before getting to the point he's at now. It was a similar situation where everyone was very unhappy with having to play against Blackbeard and kind of taking advantage of it whenever they could. People still don't, to an extent. Blackbeard's actually been banned a fair amount this season across some of the regions, but it's definitely a situation where they were able to kind of iteratively get him in somewhat the right place. Whereas Lion, it was like, you know what, maybe just the way it's working needs to be like rethought more fundamentally.
Changed.
Yeah, but we'll see how that goes. There are a lot of other operator reworks that have been talked about that haven't been completed, like Thatcher and Castle and things like that, where there are even the classic operators getting rethought. And we saw the mute change was a good example of it's something sort of coming out of nowhere in a sense. Like a lot of people have been wanting that for a while, but it was never the case where that was, we're going to do that for sure. It was just, there it is, and it's definitely worked.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's hop into game number 1. Border will be our map, and we'll see how this goes. Remind you that this map was played between these two teams in BR6 three days ago, basically. The bans were Ying and Mira for INTZ and Habana and Smoke for Immortals. So there's the Ying. So far, so good. Immortals should be going for the Habana in this situation if we're going to continue with the same lineup. And no, it's going to be Glass.
Maybe the banning Habana just didn't work out the way they were hoping it would.
Well, it did turn into a tie, so I guess so.
Yeah.
And in BR6, for people that don't know as well, you play best of 2, but basically you tie a map, nobody gets any points. You win a map, you get 1 point. So you get a maximum of 2 points per play day. It's an interesting way of doing things, but the season lasts a lot longer. Mira will be banned here, and possibly the Smoke, but maybe Maestro Echo. There you go. Echo, not surprising at all, at the 45% ban rate here for Latin America. So you look at the operator, nothing really out of the ordinary. I want to see if there's going to be some shield play, because Latin America has been so special in the way.
I mean, last time when Immortals played this against Ninjas Pajamas, I believe if it was them, it might have been them who banned Monty. No, it was Immortals that banned Monty.
Yeah, they banned Monty and Clash.
Yeah,
that was the two Immortals.
The two shields. So yeah, I guess they didn't want to deal with Ninjas Pajama shields, which makes a lot of sense. So.
But then
Yeah. Bathroom tellers to start with, though, a site we have not been seeing too much.
Yeah. All right. It's it's a nice site. It's fine. You kind of need the castle in this situation. The interesting part is the alibi in this situation.
And also teasing out the shield and then 6th picking off it. They definitely could have gone.
Bill Clinton has been banned due to toxic behavior.
Well, can't be reelected, so
Attackers have located a bomb.
gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh man. The amount of jokes that I can make right now that would probably be considered inappropriate.
Attackers have discovered the location
So I won't.
of a bomb.
I have good self-control, Devin. I know.
Well, I believe the first thing you said. I don't know about the second one.
All right, well, we'll start off with site number 1, as you saw, is Bathroom Tellers. But what's the basic thing about it? Similar to any site that is defended on the bottom floor, you gotta hold on to the top.
And that really matters a lot with similar to Coastline, these sort of squarish maps in the sense where you have kind of the bomb sites directly above each other more often than not. And that was even the case for Skyscraper when it came down to defending Kitchen. Was a big thing to defend Geisha up there, but that not the current case. And we'll be setting up at least some decoys here to try and mess with them, and a very heavy dedication to Office. So I gotta imagine if you're Immortals, you're just thinking maybe I should just attack on the Archives locker or the Arsenal locker side. Definitely gonna be thinking about a lot of good destruction coming out from that Deagle as well. Very good for remodeling.
A lot of Twitch play currently, which is very interesting. I mean,
that used to be mostly Astro.
And this is the thing, Latin America is one of those regions, specifically Astro. He held on to Twitch for so long, but he was so good at sniping mirror windows. It was absolutely insane.
He's happy it's back, I'm sure.
Oh.
Ooh, PX though, not so happy. That's their hard breacher down.
That's a pretty big deal here early on. The first one to go. It's not the most major operator because you still want to attack the top floor, which is still mostly soft walls, but it does definitely aid you just to have an extra angle to play in from below if all else fails. But now, the entrance from the outside balcony in is going to be much more complicated. Novi's will have to put extra effort. You see 4 players dedicated from INTZ here with only 1 downstairs. You can't just say, oh, screw it, let's just go and plant downstairs. You get instantly shot from above because there's so many murder holes that are prepped for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a case where if you cannot take this top floor, good luck planting, pretty much. In this case, though, a lot of utility being taken out. You mentioned the Twitch being so useful for that. Wasn't able to get everything, but certainly a nice start, because I believe Bandit probably had used most of, if not all of his batteries already.
Yeah, we're unsure if the Bandit still has any utility in this case. Again, we don't have our usual Marsu to guide us through this, but Cyber will sit up here.
Oh, the bounce failed.
They took down the ADS, which is exactly what they wanted, to push the Bandit away. Unfortunately, the grenade kind of just flops around.
Well, to be fair, they lost their hard breacher anyway, so they weren't going to be getting that wall open. So getting the battery itself was not a huge win for them.
All right, well, the Alibi is going to use her Prismas to at least detect where the Twitch is. Again, she functions very closely to the Jackal. A bullet will find Immortals' first kill on Yuk and take down the Alibi. Still not the end of the world, as Alibi's utility is oftentimes more important than the operator itself. Intact will go down as well to Cyber, leaving only 2 alive on top. Cyber taking so much damage, his bullet gets taken down. Well, they're going to try to peek. Duds here sitting all on his own inside of the fountain. He'll find 1 kill. Novi's down on the floor. 10 bullets left in the magazine as Duds will find Cyber and go for the reload. In control of Archives, leaving only M King alive here for Immortals versus the 3 of INTZ. And there's so little time left. There's even C4 available. This site perfectly held. And all credit. Oh, M King, well done. But is it going to be enough? No, Boar will take him out. All credit due to the Valkyrie with that first kill.
The kill and the Thermite absolutely changed that round for them. Also, the grenade being flubbed wasn't the best, but it was definitely a situation where they had the possibility of opening the wall, and that would have put a lot of pressure on. Still wouldn't have been perfect. They did manage to get in anyways, but the case is it would have put a lot more pressure on the positioning of INTZ to actually have to fight that a little bit safer in terms of hiding behind some of the walls a bit more, not being able to play as open, but either way, still a very good start. You got to be a little more careful with your Thermite play in the future, otherwise you end up with those kind of situations. Also did help the Prismas, you saw even at the end, hit one of them, and that forced him to be pinged as he was going for the drop as well. But it looks like we're going to need a rehost.
They're saying Jogo the King Bugoso is like his game is bugged. I don't know. That's a very generic term, I'll be honest with you. So, yeah. Well, so far, it's a 1-0 for the defense. Well done.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, it's like we haven't seen too much often lately. We saw it mostly from French teams previously. Was Millennium and Vitality at the time were the ones to kind of bring it out. Some other teams tried it, but it was mostly them running it, and I don't know, I guess the teams just kind of figured it out in terms of how to attack it from multiple sides.
I think people just kind of let it go. They realized, you know, I mean, we said it there. The biggest part of this is the fact that the hard breacher was taken out.
Yeah.
Once that was done, you just held your position because it's going to be very difficult to push you out of it. And there was, you know, no information. They had no clue where the Jaeger really was sitting in the fountain. But was all mistakes from the attack.
A lot of it, though, was also Duds pulling it off. I mean, he gets 1 rifle kill, and then instead of reloading, pulls off 2 pistol kills following that. Just playing to his 3-speed, taking advantage of his ability to pretty much know where they're coming from, because there's only 2 sides he's going to have to fight them from. Yeah, I mean, the first one he got at the window, I guess they could have re-jumped in the window, but he was still prepared for that. The pistol's still fairly good at long range. It's something that he could have won quite a few fights with, and he did. So it was nice that he got that extra refresher to reload, but either way, it was down to just the Valkyrie and the Jaeger pretty much dominating that match.
Yeah, and the most interesting part of this whole defense on the top floor is the fact that the wall between Archives and the office was soft and had a rotation hole through it. I talked about this last week. I will do so again. I wish I had a diagram where I could show you. Here's how it is. Here's how it works, because it really is very interesting. Teams like Empire, like INTZ have been using this strategy in Europe as well, and we've seen it through the invitational qualifiers, which is always interesting to see, you know, how these things turn from, oh, we're just going to reinforce Archives and sit behind it, to we're going to use this to allow our players to peek against anybody that wants to come in from the hallway.
It's that aggressive defense meta that we're in right now. I mean, I was talking about the aggressive attack, but it's really the aggressive defense that's been more the game changer, I would say, this season.
It's been dictating the whole pace of the game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you have to play aggressive attack to counter the aggressive defense at this point, just because you have to catch them in positions, because I feel like defenders are more mobile than they used to be. They're continually able to roam around maps. We saw it in other regions as well, where teams are retaking areas that the attackers feel like they had controlled, because flank watch is so hard at the moment. You kind of just have to aggressively take area and move forward instead of holding flank watch.
Look at reciprocity. That's exactly what they did in their game in North America on Monday. They just had their opponent's number. They had no problem maneuvering around Consulate, and as you mentioned, retaking lost ground the instant it was let go.
It's almost you have to work this kind of top-down thing now and then hold those stairs so they can't rotate up and around again and just continually push them down towards the bottom. It's the only way to really keep it some kind of advantages because people can drop down but not, magically fly up, whereas the attackers can repel. So, like, the one advantage you have in terms of controlling the map as an attacker is that vertical control. And something you can take advantage of. Also, you often have, the utility to open up the floors and work downwards that way as well. But in the case of Border only having 2 floors, means it's a little more interesting. And there are, still only 2 stairwells, though, that you have to contend with. So controlling those, I think, very important. But they don't seem to be able to do that. Wooden top floor is the bomb site, of course.
The east stairs are fairly easy to control if you're on the attacking side. Usually you're moving in from the balcony. So that's not the big issue. Yeah. You're always leaving one of those 2 staircases.
Metal stair seems to have been a big problem because it's so close to that ventilation room.
Yep.
People just rotate around really quick up there sneakily.
And that's why what a lot of teams will do nowadays is on the defense reinforce the hallway into the break room wall. So it allows you to play an aggressive position on the top of those metal stairs because it's such a strong position where you can start firing and then move back into the stairs where your opponents really have to open themselves up.
Yeah, there's a lot of 90-degree angles to play in here, especially with that metal detector and the metal stairs right there.
It is like a genuine thing you're thinking about within the context of the gunfight. So it makes a lot of sense that we've been seeing a ton of those reinforcements coming out. Some teams will reinforce both walls instead of only one of them.
It's definitely the case where we've seen a lot of times not reinforcing stuff and opening it up, depending on how you're going to play it, can really backfire, especially if you lose too much control or lose, it takes 2 players to defend it. You lose one of them, all of a sudden the other one is now more vulnerable. Given that, especially with how few hard breachers we often have because of bans or an early kill on a thermite, for example. So it may shift back towards, starting to reinforce a bit more if they can keep control of those hard breachers. Just because, if Habana is banned, for example, it's a situation where now all of a sudden they have to walk up to a wall to even open it. And you have a lot of Ash play now along with Zofia, like makes for a lot more further breaches on soft walls.
A lot of soft breach attackers.
Along with Buck being played very consistently
Buck,
this
Jackal.
season.
It's just Latin America that has always not been super sure about Buck. On land, that changes.
It seems like they've really kind of finally gotten past playing Sledge and are starting to play Buck a lot more.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I wouldn't use Latin America's online matches, BR6 or Pro League, as a way to gauge their performance in offline international lands.
Yeah.
Because the variance is massive.
They play very different strategy because they're countering the different regions as opposed to playing each other. So.
All right, well, I guess we are ready to go. Let's head into our matchup. Again, we'll remind you, round number 1 on the defense was won by INTZ, Intrepidity, and that was on their first site in,
Bathroom
Tellers. So
see how Vents goes, though. They're going to go downstairs now. Bullet teasing the Think Up, switching off. Boar could have actually stuck that Vigil, would have been interesting, but he wants the cameras and hoping they're not expecting it. Which, of course, 6-picking that may prevent an IQ pick to help counter, but IQ doesn't seem as big in Latin America as it is in some of the other regions right now.
No, it is something for you as a coach, for example, in other regions, especially if you're preparing for 6 Invitational. You can spot these operators that are almost never used and use those to your advantage. Because when Latin America finds, I know we're generalizing the region, but more often than not, we're very correct in that sort of assumption. Latin America kind of utilizes certain operators and then sticks to them and rarely varies to others. You saw with Thatcher, for example, in other ops. This allows you as a coach, which is what the coach's job is, to predict certain operator picks and bans and build their squad around that whole thing. And this is, again, what the coach will be doing. So if you're out there, you're an aspiring coach for a team or an analyst, there's a few things that you should keep in mind.
Definitely, there's play and there's counterplay. You kind of got to decide what you want your team to accomplish, but then also factor in what the other team is going to be doing.
It's like holes; they work both ways.
Absolutely, it's definitely the case. We'll see though where the holes end up being with the potential for top-down control. They don't need both the Buck and the Jackal, but they will have that extra redundancy along with their hard breacher, and then of course another soft breacher may also even have breach charges on the Twitch potentially to help with that. So if they can get top floor control, should be pretty good here. But a lot of this is going to depend on whether Navi is going to be successful in what has become kind of typical Ashe play, to be very aggressive and early. It almost even got a hit there through the doorway, but unfortunately the timing wasn't in his favor.
Yeah, there was the beepers there that kind of blocked a couple of the bullets that were thrown in there at the end, but still, they know what's going on. There's the mute jammer that is set up to block any droning and information gathering from the attackers. Why it's going to be a bit more difficult for Immortals to figure out how the defense is being set up here. And okay, the Band of Intact will just move in. You see the bulletproof camera that's been set up here. And I wonder who is bringing that in this case. Possibly the mute in this situation. The ADS will burn off Slither, the very first bit of utility. As there was only one of the ADS set up there. Destroy the barbed wire and any explosives that are on the side. And PX should be proceeding to blow up that side of the wall. Cyber, in the meantime, watching for any rotations, and Board is definitely interested.
Yeah, Cyber definitely should be rappelling up once they take top floor control, but for now, just kind of playing this flank watch downstairs, try and cut off any rotations that might come up metal stairs as well. Will give the ability to push a little bit better from the CCTV break room. Cyber, though, still finds a kill out of it. It may have been a little bit too aggressive. Navi's, in the meantime, having lost half his health, along with Duds, who loses quite a bit more, but wins the fight against Navi's. So looking pretty decent for the attackers still.
At what cost, though? Duds is fairly low on health here, and there's nothing really that INTZ can do about this, and they should be able to single him out. Immortals, that is. Boar still sitting on the room, the stock room on the side. Cyber will find one more and take him out. Wow. I'm not sure if Boar was just trying to run out on this, or was it just droned out and sprayed through the window, but Drunks is holding the opposite angle here by the main stairs. Also has Duds to support him. As you'll see the post, Cyber well done here on the buck, and he find one more. Duds will go down, and Cyber, he net like 4 players in that.
Yeah, he got a 4K just hanging out around the front door. Everyone just wanted to keep peeking him. This is that aggressive defender meta just completely being shut down.
A pretty successful round there for Immortals, who barely even had to challenge the whole, map.
No, it's just everyone else was there to just kind of push them out to Cyber, basically. Yeah. Feed him.
Yeah, the Ashe only got one, and it was the 4K at the end for Cyber. Wonderful. It was a wonderful bit of play there, basically capitalizing on INTZ's hyper-aggression.
Yeah, it's definitely a case where that worked out. I mean, he wasn't even necessarily doing his buck roll. He was just playing very well down there. Dokkaebi being teased, but still going back to the Twitch. Boar, though, being a little bit sneakier, bringing out what looked like the Valkyrie, but sneaking instead to the Capcan. We'll see how effective that's going to be, because, again, that was a round where they won it mostly from outside more than anything else, so I'm not sure that those Capcan traps will do a whole lot. But I gotta imagine they're gonna play maybe a little more passive this time, if they're gonna be doing that. They also have the Maestro here to be able to be playing on site along with the smoke and maybe the mute. So I gotta imagine maybe Duds might be the only one to be kind of on the roam, or maybe Boar as well, if they want to just be like, you know what, he's got his trap set up, time to just play a bit more aggressive. But it is a bit risky because you have a C4 that can be so vital when you're playing more so on site than off.
Yeah, and a way to compare as well is like Capcan to the Legion, for example, but more of a side grade, similar thing when it comes to Frost. Frost does not have C4, obviously.
5 seconds left.
Was the case in the past, but in the way to put Capcan back in the rotation and a more flexible operator, they added the Nitro Cell to him and made him a 2-2, basically.
I'm glad he waited till after they had finished droning, potentially, to set that trap up. I mean, he still might see it, but chances are, usually droning in, you're focused more on the hallway that's going to be directly to your left. So they might not catch that trap. Definitely a good one. We'll see if it even works. Unfortunately, we won't necessarily tell if they do some damage, just if they end up winding up in a kill, potentially, unless we catch it on camera.
Yeah, remember, 3 speeds through a Capcan trap will take 60 damage, and should have been detected there, so I'm sure Novice will not fall into that trap. I hope.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you might have already seen it and shot it out, but you never know. You get kind of, there we go. I was going to say, you get kind of tunnel vision sometimes and don't always catch them. But speaking of tunnel vision, right down the tunnel and up Yuke's skull. That is important, of course, because that is the smoke. So another thing that might slow them down is down. So they just got to worry about those Capcan traps mostly at this point.
The Ashe, it's been such a huge operator in this season, that's for sure. You see the mute jammers being taken out here by Bullet on the Twitch. He'll even do a bit more damage.
Surprised he got away with that.
Come here, you. There you go.
He had his job done at that point. He could just kind of freely use the other 4 zaps to do what he could. And Navi's there to finish the job now that the wall's open.
Even fires all the way down the archive. Unfortunately, unable to find the player in there, but already a ton of work being done here by Novi's. And PX has already blown up the wall, so Novi's has all the angles that he would like to have. The Thermite here having pretty much done all of his job, except for the one wall that Immortals are really looking forward to, which in this case is the Archives wall, which, as you see, is not fully reinforced. So that is something to keep in mind, is the Ashe can potentially use up her utility and open up that wall. Or is he going to go for the vault up top? Yes, he will.
Certainly wants to get some kind of peek up here. The best way to counter it really is to be playing up here, assuming you have some idea when to peek, but he's really concerned about this for good reason. Timing there working out for him.
He'll find one kill and then drop instantly. Bullet had already gotten one on the board, eliminating the Maestro, a huge part of the defense here for really any team. And only losing the Ashe for that, that's a pretty darn good.
Yeah, he's already got 2 kills, so it's fine. Worthy sacrifice. Same with last round where he managed to get a kill as well before dying, so definitely Navi's doing his job. Boar, however, starting to get pressured.
Duds will find one, taking down Cyber. Some grenades maybe you'd like to have. C4 had been thrown out and will do damage to M King, who's now at half health, but Boar will get the kill on PX, though. The Twitch in the meantime will maneuver into the site here in Archives.
Ooh.
That's fairly far away. He'll find one kill, but trade with Bullet.
Definitely an unfortunate trade for him, as of course that gives the win over to Immortals. M King just pulling off right at the right moment there. Almost like, no, never mind, it was
It's trade.
it wasn't gonna matter. That's right, it shows the other person because it's a trade.
Yep.
For anyone who's wondering about that, that's why it shows a random person, because it's not going to show the kill cam of someone that died. So we'll see lockers again here. See if we can pull it off this time. Now, the question is Bullet actually going to 6th pick over to the Maverick from the Hibana, or stick it? So I would say a lot of times when you see them fast switch to another operator is because they decide to 6th pick it instead. But he's going to go with a different WAP. So no Maverick. Something we've seen quite a bit of this season so far.
Yeah, and especially in Latin America, he's like top 5 attacker operator.
He's definitely been doing well. It took some time for everyone to kind of decide how they wanted to use him.
Who would have thought that, you know, introducing new ops takes a bit of time for everybody to understand?
Yeah, so I'm curious to see how it'll come into play when we have the 2 new ops that are, I mean, new at the moment, but won't even be new when they're finally in play.
They'll be old new.
Yeah, and we'll have 2 new news.
I wonder what the new ops are going to do. I honestly have no clue.
Right. Interesting, because they're never not interesting. You know, sometimes they're powerful, sometimes they're maybe haven't found their place yet, but they're always interesting.
Someone with an RPG. Don't quote me on that. But we'll see the setup here from INTZ as they choose to go to the same site with a similar setup. You see the half wall here, only one reinforced, the second one being soft, allows you to rotate around. It's a very ballsy way of doing things, I'll tell you what, but still something to keep in mind, as many of the walls have been shot down here by the smoke, and the smoke and the mute. I'm not sure actually is the mute bringing M5K or not. We'll have to go through later, as again, we cannot kind of dictate where
But the one change though is they are going to have Boar on that Valkyrie this time instead of switching over to the Capcan. That was you know, let's try it, didn't work, so no reason to try that again, because if it's not a surprise, it doesn't work so great.
Cyber should have soft wall here to destroy and maneuver himself into the jail. Contest anybody who's playing by those beepers. In the meantime, Novi's a similar way of attacking. He's just going to move in on the outside balcony and destroy the wall here. Is a bit of fire being thrown his way. To watch CCTV. He needs some information from his teammates. He tries to pre-fire the soft walls in the back.
Yeah, he's going to have to maneuver in a drone of his own here, potentially. But unfortunately, the one he had is a bit too far off, so he's going to have to maneuver a new one in. See if he can try and catch Duds here, but Duds going to be playing the secret. Oh, there we go, the flank.
Bullet. He lost the Twitch drone for that, let's be honest, but still.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. Drunks has a Maestro camera. We've seen this, for example, Zig using it, even when the defense is up here. With a full soft wall, Maestro can very quickly peek, and we even see teams like Norengo play this. Very, very much. And it's easy to deal with, easy to spot, but it gets complicated when you're unsure of really how to go through with this, because you haven't seen this a ton of times, and you know, you need the utility to break it open. You need that Ashe available. And here you still have Valkyrie downstairs. Board checking around, making sure there's no one trying to contest from below, as usually there's bandit batteries or meat jammers that are set up on a reinforced wall. In this case, not really so. And they're just going to fire in and destroy that evil eye in the back of the Maestro.
Yeah, I mean, now that they've got the CCTV control since they took it from Duds, they're able to better set up for this, but they're also taking a long time to do so because of that wall being soft. They're not necessarily sure how they want to approach it at this point. It's actually kind of slowing them down because they're not just focused on destroying it. So Thermite doesn't necessarily have a lot to do here. He's just going to have to kind of play with the light utility with the secondary and, you know, go for frags at this point. PX obviously just going to have to try and get the plant down once they baited out enough utility, but 20 seconds is not a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, and Immortals have to fear the C4. There was one thrown in, but I'm not sure which one that was. Maybe it was Wars, we're not sure. No, he still has the Nitro Cell and is sitting downstairs in the servers. The
Bomb located by
bug here, Cyber still has not connected, and Yokin Intact will find one. Board from below will get the kill on Bullet, leaving Novi's alive here with Cyber, and not for long as they all get shut down in a perfect round from INTZ. They drop all the Immortals, and they don't really live up to their name. The Buck took way too long to try to clear things out downstairs, and that allowed for INTZ to just sit pretty on the site, collect information, and just hold angles.
Yeah, playing a lot more passive that time, definitely working out. It was unfortunate Duds lost his position, but someone needed to hold CCTV to try and keep them at bay as long as possible. It's just unfortunate he got caught on the timing by getting that drone catching him when it did, and good flank from that. Because of that, once they had the control, they were able to try and push, but man, just waiting way too long to start that push.
And they didn't even do anything downstairs, that's the thing.
Yeah, they should have been at least maybe bucking from downstairs to put some pressure on them from below or set something up. Stopping the C4 would have been very important, as you saw the C4 was one of the kills there. But it was a lot of soft wall destruction actually working against the attackers, because the defenders were just using it to their advantage to get the peaks when they wanted to, rather than the attackers being in control of that, and absolutely worked out that time. We'll see, though, how this downstairs bathroom tellers will go the second time around. Should be interesting. This is definitely one of their preferred sites if they're going to it a second time after winning it the first round.
All right, we'll still see similar lineups, really, from both squads. The difference here for Yuk, he brings the alibi. Really, we've talked about this before. I'm going to sound like a bit of a broken record at this point, but alibi is not just about roaming. Alibi can bring you so much as a defender. She allows you to
5 seconds left.
basically have positions that your opponents were by default shoot into, and you can just detect them. The minimum what it'll do is give you information on their whereabouts, but more often than not, it will force your opponents to just play passive and play back in fear of any sort of assault you're preparing off of that information.
Much like what happens when you get Jackal tracked as a defender.
Yep, it's basically the same thing. It's just you can cover more angles at the same time. And there's a few players that you need to look out for because there's a lot to learn from them when it comes to how to play Alibi with a coordinated team. And I highly recommend that you go out and check out Chaos from Europe that really have nailed it down to a science, honestly.
PX struggling to get this drone in the right position, but this is always important to have some sight down into here, especially if you're going to be throwing any grenades. Now, he doesn't have any himself, but he could call for Cyber to make the play.
You see, they have an alibi or an alibi Prisma, and they also have a shield in front of it. And where's the castle? He's sitting back in archives with a soft wall that he can use to immediately peek out and use the information off of the Prisma to combat his opponents in the main hallway.
Assuming they fall for it now that they know about it, though.
Yep. You mentioned that as you know, a strategy. Oh no, Novi's gets shot down, and the second frag grenade thrown down, and I guess that was taken out by an ADS. Duds takes half damage, but eliminates the Ash. That's really all you need. That spearhead has just been shut down, and he's looking for the run out. He'll fire in, but PX is ready for him. So much damage done to the Thermite.
Definitely worth it, though, in terms of getting that kill onto Duds, but it is unfortunate Navis wasn't able to get any before he went down, because he'd been so effective at that in previous rounds, making sure that he was getting at least somewhat of his job done before losing it. Now almost 2 minutes burned, and they haven't really gotten inside the building so much, just a little bit in some of the hallways that might be eliminated right now, and there it is.
Wonderful bit of C4 there, realizing the wall, the roof right above him is soft, and by the balcony, we'll get another one shot down. Bullet killed by a C4.
This is one of the maps that originally had a lot of floor destruction before that started. You know, a lot of the original maps didn't have as much as this map did. So it's definitely something that's played into why this can be such a dynamic map for just 2 floors.
Gabor has rotated down and is playing by the main lobby. He spots one in the back by Peepers here in the control room, which walks in up close to the desk. He knows there's a player down here, and Cyber's actually rotated away while moving from the side. You hear oh, there you go, jumps right on top of him. Yok will get one in the meantime, leaving M-King yet again. This is a repeat of round number 1. He'll find 1 kill, but will it be enough? The alibi, having put a Prisma right in front of his face, M-King will have to be careful. 2 players from above and 1 from below. The castle impacting to the side of the wall, doing a bit of damage to the Jackal, but he's going to save the op. In this case, the C7E is. There's not much that he can do, and that's all she wrote for round number 5. INTZ will take it home.
They're definitely coming out strong here for a team that hasn't been able to win any matches just yet. And it's not actually being won so much off the aggressive defense. So something we talked about earlier is how aggressive the defense has been most of the time to try and counter. But it seems like Immortals are also playing very slow on the attack. They're not playing aggressive either. So defenders are just playing against that. Okay, if they're going to be more passive, we'll be more passive so that they're just burning too much time to make their attacks work. We don't have to peek them the whole time if they're going to slow down on their own. Seems like the right play, but we'll see how switching to a Dokkaebi changes up that dynamic in terms of controlling any kind of potential roamers. Usually going to be duds. Instead of Jackal tracking, just trying to go for the phone calls instead.
And it makes a lot of sense. That Buck situation downstairs with the castle should not have happened. And well, having M-King to guide his teammates downstairs is definitely going to help.
We'll see if it makes the difference, though. It's definitely the case where Cyber's also able to do a lot of damage last time from outside. We'll see if we can pull it off this time. PX and M-King just not getting a whole lot of the kills, but the other 3 doing just fine. However, still a point behind. Boar there all the way up at 5 as well. Nice drone kill there from Yuke, and we talk about how important the drone economy is, and so losing those initial drones, always a bit of a bummer as an attacker, because you want to keep them outside for that reason, and you see 2 of them are down at the moment. Navi's and M-King, you see their dimmed icons. They have lost their drones.
It's one of those quality of life things that we've had introduced in the game.
Quality of life for us, really. Yeah.
And for really everyone, like, you know, is this? Oh man, I love it when this happens. When there's fantastic bandwave. It's just, it lights up my day.
Yeah,
you already do that, but then you add this to it. It's like, how can I be even happier with this?
Makes you a real bright guy.
That's what my mom says. Well. Meantime, Boar setting up in the bathroom. Now, usually you see Castle Wall in this position. Not the case here.
Yeah, Dud's still trying to be the aggressive roamer here. Trying to find some early picks. If he can try and pick Navi's again, that would definitely be helpful because that is kind of his rival at the moment. He's trying to make sure he can shut him down early, which will that is pretty much what is denying most of the aggression from the attackers, is if Navi's gets shut down early, they just don't feel as comfortable pushing.
Yep. And, you know, it's a similar thing with really most teams and most regions nowadays with the Ash.
And there it is.
Duds will find Novi's, and that's all they needed. It's going to get so much slower now for Immortals as they'll have to contend with an extra bit of manpower for INTZ, but also the fact that they don't have as much soft destruction as they would like, or the ability to burn ADSs that are very plentiful.
And this is a much slower site to push than when it's the top floor, because you have to take the top floor and push down to the bottom floor, and dropping hatches is a risky thing to do if you don't have a lot of control going on or manpower advantage. So this being this slow already and Navi's being down is actually not looking really good for the attackers here, because they're just still going to be able to burn a lot of time on defense, especially if that Legion can stay alive, and then the C4 throws and smokes can really slow things down. Great drone work, though.
I wouldn't be surprised if Cyber moves through, oh, there you go, that's what I'm going to say. Either he moves through Visa or he comes in from the jail. In both positions, he can do quite a bit of work. In the meantime, actually, the Thermite will open up the top floors. So well done by PX. Has the FAMAS of the Twitch to help him out. Cyber from below, there's obviously not as much manpower as you'd like, but the drone has already been taken downstairs, which is going to allow Drunks here to move around quite a bit on the Legion, unimpeded, really. And Cyber has not been able to really come in, clear out inside solo. There's no calls as well to support him in that spot. Intact, so close here. You see a bit of fire having been rattled in. He's just waiting for the information to move up.
And that's the nice thing about Mute being able to play that shotgun, is now Smoke can play back and do his thing. But there's the shotgun to do it, and took 2 shots, but absolutely worth it. He's waiting for a second one.
Up close has the shotgun in hand, and no, PX takes so much damage, but not enough to take him out. He drops down, takes no damage in the meantime. He'll set up a Claymore just to make sure that nobody will dive as the assault goes in. But yeah, you lose the mute, that's not a big deal. You lost the Twitch, a lot of firepower. By the time the attack starts up, and a double kill for Duds. Walks right back in from vents, leaves only one alive, not for long. Drunks finishes him off. The Legion doing work as he stays inside of the desk area. That was all that was required by INTZ. I have to say, very efficient ways of running the defense, at least on that round.
Yeah, definitely, especially Duds getting a 3K that round, definitely working out for him. Again, once they kill Navi's on that attack, it just seems to really shut down their ability to move forward.
Yeah.
It wasn't even until the 2-minute mark they opened up the wall, and that's not even the bomb site. That's just to get above it. And they still weren't able to do much with that because that just walked them into a shotgun. Yeah, they managed to get the trade on it, but too little too late at that point to really make any significant progress. They were going to have to pretty much rush bottom to do anything. But either way, sides have switched now. So we'll see how INTZ plays on their attack. They're actually going to bring out Thatcher, something we were talking about.
Yep.
You don't see necessarily a lot, but that will definitely help potentially in clearing out the ADSs. It might also, by coincidence, hit Black Eyes as well as the Evil Eyes. It's obviously not going to do anything to smoke for the most part, but ADSs also can be caught off guard sometimes. We'll see. It is going to be lockers.
Yep. And of course, we're on round number 7, so there has been the switch up. Immortals, interestingly enough, will run pretty much the same lineup that we saw INTZ do.
Yeah, the difference being the Zofia, I guess, is instead of the Twitch, so.
But you know, both operators do different things, which is very understandable. You still get a 7.62 that is much more efficient in terms of damage output and range, even though the FAMAS is fairly controllable. Pretty much one of the best attacking guns anyways. So
yeah.
You're trading off more utility. It's a similar thing with Ash. I had this conversation today, I think with Uno. Like, what's the difference between Ash and Zofia? And it's just, well, Ash more firepower, Zofia more utility. Which one do you want? Which is more important for you?
Which is why, of course, as soon as they started taking away utility from Zofia, Ash gets more play.
Exactly. And, you know, there's not as much of a reason as it was in the past, where Zofia had 4 Guzmots and the 2 impacts, plus the fact that she has a pretty darn good gun on her. So now you bring both operators, you have so much soft destruction, you add on top of that the Thermite and the Thatcher to clear anything very easily for hard breach, and also the Buck just in case. And Novies, he turns away as that's a fadeaway shot there. Yuk is gonna go down, takes down the Zofia early on.
Well, we won't see that utility used then.
No. Unfortunate.
At least Dud's still alive on the Ash as well. Usually that was the entry frag that was dying. So in this case, if he can do some work on this, I mean, usually he was the one to kill the Ash. If he could take Cyber out, for example, do kind of the counterplay to what happened to him, that'd be a good start. But trying to even it up after a minute lost and not really a lot of ground gained, it's definitely putting this in the hands of Immortals at the moment.
All right, still switching around between all the cameras to find information on the attacking side of INTZ, as Immortals have that one-man advantage. Maestro having such a long angle. You see the amount of soft destruction, or the amount of quote-unquote remodeling in SimCity that the defense of Immortals have done before the start of the round. All of that allowing them to play that ACOG to its maximum advantage. But as usual, hoes work both ways, and you kind of have to maybe deal with them later on.
Yeah, definitely. But in the meantime, it does slow down attackers most of the time if they cannot control it. Obviously, it's up to them to drone first and find out where the positioning might be. They're doing that droning right now to try and get control of the office side, which in this case, they managed to at least get the wall open. But again, a lot of this destruction, this is a pattern we're starting to see, is a lot more teams opening up the fountain wall instead of reinforcing it and playing behind it, just to be able to give them that extra bit of counterplay to the wall.
All right. Still holding on here, Bullet, trying to give some information to his teammates. And so far, no one has really penetrated into the office area from the attackers, even though the wall had already been broken up by INTZ on the balcony. Still, advantage of manpower for Immortals. And yeah, 30 seconds in, and the attack still has not really commenced. You see the Thatcher on the outside. 2 players are down on the floor. I'm not sure what put them, but how are they on the ground? How are they downed? What happened?
They fell asleep.
Did they get C4'd or something?
Yeah, I would guess that looks like a C4 kind of situation.
All right, well, M-King at least get the kill here on the Maestro.
seconds to go.
And Border will go with 8 seconds on the clock. We'll have to pull the exothermic charge. It's a Hail Mary here. C4 from below. Novice will get 1 kill. PX with the second. Drunks will find 1, but there's not enough time. And that's all she wrote for round number 7. That was interesting.
Yeah, this has definitely been pretty defender-sided so far outside of the 2 attack rounds that Immortals won.
And why? Why do you think that's the case?
It's because they're able to shut down these attacks in terms of their ability to take map control. They're just constantly denying it. The 1 or 2 roamers they have are still kind of allowed to run around most of the time. Yeah, Duds did get shut down occasionally, and those tended to lead more to the attack wins. But in this case, it's just having the firepower, especially for the Maestro, all the extra utility, so you're having the Evil Eyes along with the Black Eyes, and then Mute Jammers to deny some of the droning. I mean, this lineup working pretty consistently for both teams. There's not really a ton of reason to change it. You have Smoke to hold the anchor on the site with the Maestro. You have the Jaeger to roam around, somewhat to put pressure on their attack to have to clear better. And then you have the extra utility there and a lot of C4s on board with both Navis and PX bringing those. You saw how much C4s potentially impacted last round as well, and to have many of the previous rounds, whereas the utility from the attackers not seeming to do a ton. For example, Buck being brought in, sometimes his grenade's doing something, but more often than not, his Scout and Key not really being effective in a lot of these attacks in terms of what they're actually doing with it. Jackal tracking not leading to a whole lot either. It's mostly coming down to whether the Ash gets a kill or not, because we're not seeing a whole lot come out of Thermite either.
No.
So just utility-wise, hugely favoring the defenders at the moment.
It's so weird really to say that. Border being one of the more balanced maps out there, if not the most balanced one, I guess.
Attackers are moving
So,
to defuse the bomb.
seeing everything being so one-sided is kind of an oddity.
They just seem to play like EG was on that Rogue match. Just hyper-aggressive
Yeah,
and
yeah.
take them by surprise while they're thinking they can sit back and check cams.
You can't do that, and you saw the runouts, you saw the C4s, everything is just being given to the defenders. And when the defenders dictate the pace of the round, especially when they already have a technical advantage within the build of the game, that's not a good spot for you as an attacker. You want to be the one that's always controlling, always droning, always keeping those defenders on their toes as they try to remaneuver every single time around the map. In this case, it's not really looking too sweet. Attacking side, even with the Jackal, even with the Dokkaebi that we saw before.
Yeah, it definitely didn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. And Smokes aren't even getting a chance to come out because the site push is not happening. Cyber, though, is the first to go down, so that's a good start for Duds.
Oh,
Again, doing kind of the counter there. And
why did Cyber just run out?
he definitely did not need to do that. Now that CCTV control is just given away pretty much for free. Did do some damage to Duds, so it wasn't the worst, but certainly not the best play.
I see the full reinforcements here in the bathroom. Poor Yuk. Why is he solo there as well? So many questions here, and it's like the more questions we ask, the more they prop up because we just don't know how to answer them. Grenade from Intact will get thrown right into the Maestro camera here to blow it up. So now he won't have to deal with that nuisance. As Bullet's still in the back of half wall in the armory, and just he can fall back whenever he wants. Got the hatch as well, and you saw the second Evil Eye that was set up right by the server stack. So you drop in, there's an Evil Eye right next to him, and he can already get information for his teammates through it and through the hatch, which is pretty darn good. There's a lot of smokes that get thrown in through the main wall. Now that bathroom wall was not completely reinforced. There was a rotation hole, as you just saw, and M-King is still in the archives. You're on the attack of INTZ, and you haven't really cleared out much of the map.
No, they definitely haven't taken a ton of map control. They did get the wall open, so that's not the worst position to be in, but again, they haven't shut down the Valkyrie, just hanging out over here. Navi's just free reign, still has the C4 in pocket as well as all his cameras up.
Hello, Jackal, are you tracking? Is this working? Is this on?
I'm not sure what he's trying to do. I mean, it is also much more of a pain to play Jackal with mutes because they will disrupt your vision a lot, but there goes a kill on Boar as well, and then another one onto Intact.
Intact just trying to play solo here. Drunks uses one of his Inox charges, but yet again, the Jackal will be left alone. I'll find one kill on Novi's, but too little, too late probably here. 15 seconds left on the clock.
15 seconds left.
And the diffuser is set in the workshop all on its lonesome. Drunks will have to go over the recover. Find the kill on Bullet. 2 more left alive as he's dropped fairly low in health. Unsure of where the fire is coming in. Looks around to the hatch and where M-King and CCTV will draw some more blood for Immortals as now they tie things up 4-4. The game is getting fairly close between the two teams, but it's just because the attackers are playing solo and completely spread apart instead of together and using their drones to give one another information to use that Ash effectively.
Well, we will see customs for the first time, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. But if they're going to be as successful on these defenses as we saw from INTZ, this could definitely be a very Immortals favored match at the moment, just because they have all these defensive rounds to work with still. Is there only 2 in and already have tied it up? See, they are going to sneak in the Legion. Going without the Jaeger hasn't always been the best because, well, you want to make sure that those grenades aren't as much of a problem for you. So now is the opportunity for the Buck to do some extra damage. They also have the phone calls to be able to pull out from Drunks. See if they can manage, but they're going to have to deal with those Legion goo mines. And of course, all the cameras being brought by the defenders. So this will be interesting because we've seen a lot of CCTV takes be pretty swift in terms of the attack rounds when it wasn't in customs. If they can't hold CCTV any more effectively this time, then it's definitely not going to be a good time for the defenders. Just because, well, once they get top floor control of that and get control of the CCTV site, they can start bucking the floor. They can open up passport with the thermite, and it's usually pretty easy to plant from there, especially if you have smokes left. Assuming Drunks doesn't die early, of course. So make sure he keeps the sniper almost walking into the fire there of the Bailiff.
Well, there's no damage done in that case, which is pretty darn good. Have the rotation hold from CCTV, and as you said, you know, they can use that to their advantage to run out. Hatch even being opened up here. See jail reinforced. There's no, I'm not sure if there's a mute jammer set right in front of it, but it would make a ton of sense. Now this is an easy situation really to deal with. As hell, even if there's a, oh, there we go, impact trigger, and it did work. So no crouch play from Bor, as he probably has to learn from more of the EU and NA teams when it comes to using that C button. But yeah, you crouch with the thermite, that impact grenade suddenly means nothing.
Definitely something you don't see a lot of impact tricking on that side, so just not something that a lot of teams are considering yet.
And the Buck is not fighting it. He's not chucking any grenades into the jail. No, none of that being used. Usually you'll see one rappelling above, turning around to fight that.
We did see one to try and counter it, but it was too little too late on the timing to stop him or at least kill him in the process of impact tricking.
Yeah, no information to be relayed in. Not sure if that's because of some huge hammer. Oh man.
They're going to need his smokes too.
It's a lot of firepower coming in from the Maestro and even getting the kill on the Zofia. Intact. Won't get the kill here, at least the Buck player finding the shot on the second Buck player, the opposing team. Bor to do some more droning work is just gauge the situation in CCTV and in the fountain. Nothing really to be found as Duds has taken control of the break room. M-King still in supply downstairs, and no one really can seem to dislodge him from the situation. Immortals just kind of giving up CCTV, but using it to trap their opponents inside of the break room and CCTV itself.
Yeah, this is definitely working out in terms of that kind of turns into a shooting fish in a barrel situation, the way that the Maestro is able to stay upstairs like that. Now, of course, being slow as he is, can't rotate super fast, but again, he doesn't necessarily need to a lot because he's got long angles with that ACOG to fight. They cannot sit here and shoot downwards if he's able to maintain this control.
It's an advantage of being a one-speed in real life as well.
Bomb located by
Intact moving in from the waiting room, and he'll check the bathroom. Nobody in there. There's one player in the workshop on the defense. Just open up an extra bit of room for him to look all the way down to customs. Nobody in there, as there you go. He spots the mute in the desk. And Bor can just come in and, well, destroy an extra wall if you'd like to, or maybe just try to bait out the remaining smokes. C4 in the hands of PX for Nitrocell there. Just needs some information to fire it down on Valkyrie. Will be the first one to throw it up. And no, that's a plant right in front of him. Novi strays through the smoke and gets the kill on Bor. He can use the smoke to his advantage here to take down the diffuser. They have to worry about players upstairs. And Intact to the main lobby. Drunks will get a headshot. The one tap to Novis, and PX will run out. He'll find one half health here. This does no moves right in front of him in CCTV. Drunks waiting for the ankle. 2 versus 3. The Maestro still up. Not for long. That's a great shot there from Duds to hold on to the metal stairs. Drunks to fire into the 2. So much damage done to both of them. He'll down one. That's M-King out of play. And the diffuser has to get saved at the end by PX. He'll fire into the Ash. And no more time left at the end. You're not really going to be able to do much. And there you go. That's the attack to win the round as bombs will get disarmed, and INTZ will put the round on the board. And a bit of a freakish round here by INTZ, but still, attackers finally doing something.
And it was down to that smoke. I was talking about how they needed Drunks alive to get those smokes down to get a plant successful, because it's such a wide open room. You can't just stealth plant it in there unless you can control them to be completely out of the room. The fact that they went for a reset on him when he was on such low health from getting tagged earlier, like he survived it, they reset him. I mean, he didn't necessarily need the health for the plant per se, but it certainly does help when you can go in and plant confidently, because that, or at least make sure that the smokes are going to come out. And then good coverage as well, killing the Maestro on the stairs definitely made a big difference in being able to clutch that out. And unfortunately, the double run out just did not work out very well at all. So great play by Drunks, completely using the pillars to his advantage to just play them back for as long as possible. I mean,
maybe you shouldn't stack up when you're rushing out.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the idea was, of course, you know, hey, if we have to trade, that's fine. You know, like, bait me, I'll get the kill. But then you're still in a situation where you're fighting the Ashe alone.
Yep. Which, as we've seen in the current metagame,
is not great.
Well, there you go. Defense with the same operators. Both teams really going through with the Valkyrie, the Maestro, the Jaeger, the Mute, and that Smoke. On the attack, however, still are running the same thing. The change, though, no Jackal. This time will be Drunks checking for the Thatcher, so he's the one bringing that up. Otherwise, it's very flexible.
It's interesting that he's finally switching to a non-smoke operator, because he'd been playing both the operators that bring smoke. Now instead he's just going to try and help them get the wall open faster, which I think is a good idea, because without Bandit being played here, they're not going to be Bandit tricking it or anything like that, so they can go for a much faster wall opening, which is something we saw the Immortals actually struggling with.
Yeah, I think the more important part here for INTZ is to clear the bottom floor first. No, then that attack into the archives is going to look exactly what it looked like a couple, 2-3 rounds ago.
C4s have been such a big impact on this match so far.
And it's the same thing. We kind of repeat ourselves with all of this. It's just, hey, you're attacking top floor. Have you thought about, attacking the bottom floor first, just to clear out any utility there?
It's a time management thing, though. Like, if you can't manage to get the main objectives, the kind of check marks off early and fast, you don't have that extra time to be spending time hunting roamers down. And you need good drone economy as well to be able to back that up, because if you lose too many drones, you've got to start face checking things.
Yeah, and those are definitely hit or miss.
Ooh, speaking of face checking.
Well, we checked in the face here.
Yeah.
MK, this is something that I really like from Immortals. Opening up so many angles leaves the attackers with not much room to maneuver. And also, sure, they can be used against you as the defense, but still...
It's hard to maintain map control of a room when the walls are opened up around you.
Exactly, and that's the thing. You have to worry about this, because the angles are well and truly in the hands of the defenders. They have information on you, and you're not expecting them.
Well, it sounds like at least they got the wall open, so the attackers at a slight disadvantage in aggression, but they need to start baiting out utility. Unfortunately, baiting out bullets is not really helpful there for Drunks.
Yeah, at least the EMP went off, but at what cost? Drunks has been taken out. More damage done to Yuk, as bullet will just spray into CCTV. Novice will rotate back in, and they can very easily open the hatch here to allow the Valkyrie to drop down, and, well, not for long. Intact will actually finish him off. Novice no longer in play. Cyber in the back here by the half wall. Intact from below will try to find the kill, as this is a fairly common position for any player to be sitting in. As Cyber, in the meantime, will get one. Unfortunate here, as Intact is all the way downstairs. Bor, the really only man left on the assault upstairs, is in CCTV, scurrying away. He'll need Intact's help for this, but a 4v2, and there's info galore. Look at that. Is that a Maestro camera up above? There's no way you can deal with any of that. They have a complete beat on you, and they have no way to deal with it.
Yeah,
Look at it.
There's no smokes to cover anything. There's no utility to take out that. There we go. Cyber going to get one. Might even get the second one here. PX, though, steals it from him.
That's just wonderful play from Immortals. They just use the information to their advantage and just sit back. You know what? Hey, you're the ones that are supposed to push us.
This is looking like it could end up in a tie, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly due to the fact that INTZ were able to actually pull off that attack the previous round, which was a little bit of a long shot. I bet that is the only time customs have been played in this match, and, well, it was lost. It would be interesting to see the Immortals go to bathroom tellers, which we saw twice come out from INTZ, but it doesn't seem like a strategy that, they'd rather do customs as their third side, it seems. But they're going to try vents again, which they have won successfully. So far, the only site they've lost on defense is that customs one. So their two primaries working out just fine, but you know, when they work out fine, you have to rotate to a third one. So even if they win this now, again, they're going to have to try customs or bathroom teller after.
Defenders, protect your bombs from
Yeah, definitely something to keep in mind here, the site rotation.
There's a bit of strategy to it.
Yeah, one would say. Oh. Novi's back again here on the Valkyrie. Notice there's no major change in operators, except for the fact that Immortals are not bringing the Jaeger this time. They focus more on the Legion. They want to slow INTZ even further, and just adding 2 C4s to the whole mix. Smokes and goo mines.
If I'm remembering correctly, though, the round that they didn't bring the Jaeger last time is also the only one they lost. So that's, I mean, assuming I'm remembering that right. Doesn't seem like a great strategy.
Top of it, you are wrong.
It's definitely possible. I don't have extensive notes on all the operator plays, but
No, that would be a great thing to have some sort of API and information feed.
certainly would.
Well, Maestro setting up here for CCTV, probably to fight into that angle, and obviously some of the few times that you'll see these sort of reinforcements, I don't really want to say obviously, but still, Archives wall into armory being reinforced makes a lot of sense. You want to peel off in multiple locations before you hit the armory. That's your last line of defense before dropping down into the workshop, and you want to make your opponents fight for it as much as possible, and having reinforced walls is basically the easiest way for you to slow down your opponents and make sure they utilize as much of their time and utility before they actually contest the site you're defending.
Because, of course, more often than not, you can push them to have to fight more 90-degree angles or use up, like you said, some of that utility to help with that.
Indeed. So it's all kind of a mix of how much can we make the attackers waste in time and utility before they actually become a valid threat on the site that we're defending. In this case, is downstairs in the workshop and in ventilation. Novi's setting up, and he does have a C4 in hand. So the instant somebody would like to move in, he can definitely take them out of their misery. It's a pretty good spot there for the Valkyrie Black Eyes. We'll see the Zofia setting up, and Novi's going to maybe try to go for a C4. No, in that position, I'm not sure if he can actually hit anything, but he will fall back, and it seems like INTZ are taking their sweet time in this assault. Smoke will come out by M-King. He's going to get flashbanged, or at least disrupted by the Zofia in the back. He actually goes in and does a decent chunk of damage on his opponent. The Buck on the opposite end of INTZ. Tons of damage done to M-King in the meantime, but this will allow Novi's to rotate in, and no, he fires a bit too early. He'll turn around to the Ash, but will win the engagement in CCTV.
It's interesting the way they're playing the Smoke here, but he's used up all of his canisters just trying to hold that single door.
Yeah, losing the one player plus the C4 that is available, not a good spot. Bullet in the meantime trying to move out of this position, or at least fight behind the metal wall intact to find M-King. Lose the Smoke, who had already done a ton of work. There's so little time left on the clock, 30 seconds, and this might turn into a drop or a push through the bathroom, which, to be honest, kind of negates your manpower. Okay, that's Cyber to get one. Yuk will find the opposite one, though, taken down. Bullet diffuser in the meantime has been set. Tons of damage done to PX here on the mute board holding by the main lobby. PX with no nitro cell in hand has to be really careful here how he engages his opponent. Cyber, not much better of a situation, as those health bills are going to rack up. Cyber moving into the armory to try and contest. Will fire at the body, but not enough time, as Yuk will take him out. Refract from PX, but little time left is from the grave. Yug will find the kill, the Claymore, and that's all she wrote. That's one round away from a tie.
This is great news for INTZ, though. They were at 0 points. Now they're at a minimum of 1.
Yep. Stark contrast to their matches that they had before, and this will, if it ties, going to be exactly what happened between these two teams in Sunday's BR6 day. So, is it really a surprise?
A little bit of deja vu for them, I imagine, at this point. We'll see. They're going to try vents again. I mean, there wasn't the worst defense, but it just they weren't able to do a lot in terms of getting kills, more just delaying. So the smoke being a perfect example of that. The way he was playing that door up in Archives, it was great for delaying them, which was fantastic, but not getting any kills as well a lot of the time also meant they still had a lot of manpower left once people were caught out of positions, but it's their inability to stop the diffuser from getting actually planted that really cost them the round. They had a Legion who did a great job running out getting a kill, but he could have been using those goo mines to slow down the diffuse plant, because of course you have to take the goo mines out of your feet before you can plant. Not to mention it would have also slowed down any 3-speed attackers or even the 2 speeds from sprinting on into the site, but either way, we'll see what they do with it this round, see if they can do something different. The attacker's bringing basically the same utility here. We'll see if Yuke can do some work with that Zofia though.
Yeah, there has been a lot of that conversation recently in the past week basically about Legion, and I do have to agree, even as someone who plays a decent chunk of the operator, similar thing for Maestro. The amount of utility that both operators bring to the table might be a bit too much, and one solution that was proposed is to have the Legion lose out on 2 goo mines, but make his reload time, recharge time faster, so he can deploy goo mines faster, but less of them around, during the round.
Which is funny because they'd done the opposite before. They'd increased his goo mines by 1 and sped up his recharge time.
Yeah,
so.
which he's kind of, he does a lot. One of the most flexible operators on the defense, maybe too flexible.
It'd be interesting to see if there is more kind of recharge utility-based operators in the future, because it's a nice incentive to stay alive longer.
Exactly. Not just to charge headlong and look for a kill, but still, a T5 does a decent chunk of damage. In the meantime, Yuk will set up his...
this is good and early.
Stairs. Very good. INTZ are definitely moving in. Intact will even prep a grenade to fire in the back, and there's nobody in the back though, but that was a good shot into the half wall. At least we'll push someone away, and Yuk will find one kill. M-King. Hear the smoke. Not sure where he was stationed. Oh no, he was stationed in the Archives. Oh no. This is why that rotation hole is not always the greatest decision.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something that costs them quite a bit, because now that top floor control can come in much faster, now that they don't have any Jaegers to worry about or anything like that to throw any grenades they might have left down, as well as Zofia's utility, but at least Bullet managing to get that kill onto Duds will finally help slow down that top floor control, because he is kind of key to helping hold that up there, but probably doesn't have a teammate up there to reset him to make sure he gets back up to full health, so he's going to have to play off what little he has left.
You got to be very careful. The amount of work that the Maestro can do in any point in time during the round is definitely something that you cannot neglect.
Oh, there we go. They go for the reset.
Yep. So they'll bring the Maestro back up. In the meantime, Cyber will get a kill on Yuk. A pretty good spot here as both soft breachers have been taken down. Your initial wave of attack, Vor will find 1 kill, but quickly Drunks will get traded up by Cyber. Great start here. Go for the plant. PX connects onto Bor. That's the C4 doing work, making wonders work. And Intact, less alive. Maybe not for long. He'll fire into the Legion, but he's somehow barely alive as he expends the entirety of the magazine, all of its contents, even throwing the mag itself onto the Legion at some point to try and finish him off. But Cyber will still be alive at around half health. Sort of walk in to the workshop, and a quick shot through the wall means that PX will clean it up, but yeah.
Nice.
I was in a great position there for INTZ as they were so close to getting 3 points on the board. Unfortunately, they'll have to be content with a single one.
Yeah, and that's good for Immortals as well, to make sure that they don't go with 0, doing as well as they are doing on the scorebord. Securing at least 1 point helps them stay up there a little bit longer,